Hey y'all, No here. Well, about 3 years ago, I was sitting at the end of my driveway just like I am right now, telling you that I was about to take a journey all the way to Alaska and eventually up to the Arctic Ocean. And about 3 years and 6 weeks ago, I was standing in front of my garage door telling you that our traveling days are over, that I was going to sell the No Mobile and retire from van life. Well, surprise, I didn't sell the van. Nobody wanted to buy it, although I have to say I really didn't try to sell it all that hard because I think deep in my heart, I knew that even though I had made it to Alaska, which was the calling that God originally put on me, that I really wasn't finished. Because when I went to Alaska, I got to Alaska as quickly as I could. And the plan was to get to Alaska, spend as much time in Alaska as I wanted to, drive the Dempster Highway up to the Arctic Ocean, and then just take my time coming back through the Canadian Rockies to visit and hike and backpack through them. And there was a good reason for that, not just because I wanted to get to Alaska quickly, but as I was going to Alaska, there were wildfires starting all over Canada, especially in Alberta. And so there was lots and lots of smoke that just obscured your view of the Canadian Rockies as I was going up. And so my hope was that once I was coming back, the fires would be more under control and I would actually be able to see the mountains that I was driving through. Well, that really wasn't the case because the fires spread across the Canadian Rockies to the west side. And then when I was getting ready to come home, most of British Columbia was on fire, so much so that I had to go all the way around British Columbia, about at least 1,000 miles out of the way, just to be able to get back home because, there's not that many roads that lead from Alaska back to the United States. So I had to really take the long way around. So that kind of left me with a feeling of just unfinished business. I feel like I did almost everything that I was supposed to do on that trip, but because of the fires and because of other financial circumstances that would come into play when I got back home, I felt like part of what I was meant to do on that trip didn't get done. So now it's 3 years later. I'm doing better financially, not doing quite as well physically as I was. I've aged a little bit in those 3 years, maybe a little more than 3 years time. But anyway, so I am headed back to the Canadian Rockies eventually, going through New Mexico and Colorado and Idaho to get there. So I'm taking the long way around, and I'm expecting this trip, if all goes as planned, and you know what I say about a plan is something that you think you're going to do. But if everything goes as planned, it should take me about 3 months to make this trip. And so I'm going to document it as I go. It's probably not going to be as entertaining or, as beautiful or, seeing beautiful places and things like that as the trip to Alaska was. But it may let you see the real reason why God sent me in this van to start with, and that was to spread light in the dark world, share the gospel with people who have not heard it. I have the cure for an incurable disease, which is called sin. And if I keep that cure to myself, that is a sin as well. So this is just the beginning. There'll be more later. So as I go along, you may not get an update every day. Probably get one at least once a week. But I'll be sharing with what it's like to go through the places and meeting the people. And really it's going to be as much about people on this journey as far as the video part of it goes as anything else, because that's the real reason that I'm going. Not to see beautiful places, although that's a side benefit, but to meet people that God has appointed me to meet so that I can encourage them and enlighten them. So that's it for now. I will continue this video a little bit later. Well, I lost a subscriber a couple of days ago, but not the usual way. It wasn't a person that unsubscribed. It was my very favorite and last uncle that I had surviving. But he went home to be with the Lord a couple of days ago. And he was one of my most faithful viewers. I'll miss him, but he's in a better place. Okay, so yesterday I said my final goodbye to my very favorite uncle. And then I drove to West Tennessee, and now I'm with one of my favorite families in the whole world. And this is the mom. This is Danielle. And this is Wes, her husband. And then we have Emma and Arrington and Ty. And so, Danielle, what age are your children?
7, 10, and 3.
7, 10, and 3. Okay. And so we're about to have breakfast, but before we feed our bellies, we're going to take a little time to feed our souls, because we need the Word of God. Is much more important than even food. And even Jesus said, man does not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds from the mouth of God. And so that's what we're going to do today, is we're going to look at some of God's Word and feed our soul. So the scripture verse that we're looking at today, and I'm just going to ignore you people on the camera, so now we're going to study, and I'm going to invite you to join us. I hope that you will. If you want to fast forward, you can, but you're liable to miss something that could be really life-changing for you. So you guys listen closely too, because this could change the way you look at your life forever. So this is found in Romans 8:28. And it says, and we know, and so who is we? The we in this is Paul, the Apostle Paul, who wrote the book of Romans to a church in Rome that he had never been to before. So when he says we, he means himself and the believers who were in Rome. So this verse only applies to believers. So he said, and we know that God causes all things to work together for good to those who love God, to those who are called according to his purpose. Now, that is a very comforting and inspiring verse to me. Because if you write down what Paul said, he said that God causes all things to work together. How many things are all things? 1, 2. How many things are all things?
All things.
All. All means all. So everything that can ever happen, whether we think it's good or whether we think it's bad, God can make it good. Not the one thing by itself, but all the things that happen, he can mix them up like a cake mix in a bowl, and you put the eggs and the milk and all that stuff. And really, if you take the flour and the eggs and the butter by themselves, it's not very good to eat, is it? a stick of butter or a raw egg or a handful of flour, that wouldn't be any good, would it? But if you take all those things and you put them together in a bowl, you mix them up just right and you bake them just right, man, then you got something good. And that's the way God works too. He takes all the things that are happening, because He knows all the things that are going to happen and have happened. He knows how to arrange them just in the right way that they'll end up being good whether we think they're good or not. But the thing about this verse, it's actually a promise. You know, if God says something in His Word, you can believe it. It's true. And so when Paul wrote, we know that God causes all things to work together for good, we know that He can do it. But there's two conditions. Did you catch what they were when I read them? You have to be a believer first, like the people were that Paul wrote his letter to. But you have to meet two conditions before God will keep this promise for you. So the two conditions are that you have to love God, because He said, to those who love God. So if you don't love God, then you can't count on this, keeping this promise for you. It's what we call a conditional promise. You have to do something in order to get something. And then it says, and also those who are called according to His purpose. Now, y'all know what love is, right? Love is not just a word we say, it's the things we do. And so, we can say we love someone, but until we act like it and do things like it and put somebody else's wishes above ours and think of them more than we do ourselves, like your dad thinks about your mom and your mom thinks about your dad. He's always wanting to do something to make things better for your mom. She's always wanting to do something to make things better for him. They love each other. And so God is going to love us whether we love Him back or not. But He wants us to live in a way that shows Him that we love Him. And the way we show Him that is we obey what He tells us to do. Just like you guys, you girls and guys, you demonstrate to your mom and dad that you love them. The very best way is when they tell you to do something. You don't ask why a dozen times. You just go do it without even having to be told a second time, and you go do it right when they tell you to. Don't you feel loved when your children do that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mom and dads love their children to obey them. They're going to love you anyway, but when you obey, it's going to show them that they love you. It's not just a feeling. So that's the way that we show God we love Him too. So we obey Him and do what His Word tells us to do. Now, the harder part to understand is it says, if we are called according to His purpose. Now, Wes, do you know what your purpose right now at this stage of your life is?
I would say one of my main purposes is to be a dad, a husband and dad.
Yeah, that's what God has called you to be, and you're going to be a dad for the rest of your life. So that is God's main calling for you right now. And I would say for Danielle, that's her main calling too. But for you three, especially for Ty over there, it's going to take some time to understand what your purpose in life is going to be. And so, but in order for God to keep this promise to you, and being willing to take anything that you do, and whether you do a good job on it or not a so good job on it, God can take anything that you do and make it good. He doesn't say he'll make it perfect, but He'll make it good, and He'll take all the things that you do, put them together like that cake that you bake, and it'll all come out good. And to me, the inspiring part about that is that I don't have to be perfect. I just have to try and know what God's purpose is for me, and I have to try to love God with all my heart all the time. If I do those two things, then God's going to keep his promise, and he's going to take all my mistakes and combine them with all my other mistakes. And, they say that 2 wrongs don't make a right. Well, God can take 2 wrongs and he can make them into a right, because he knows just how to put them together in just the right way. Does that make sense to y'all? Does that make you feel better that you don't have to be perfect, but God can take what you do and make it into something good? Yeah, it does for me. It takes all the pressure off of you, because you don't have to worry, am I going to get the answers right on this test, or anything else like that? You know that in the end, it's going to work out if you meet those 2 conditions. So I hope you folks at home are meeting those 2 conditions too. If you're not, it's never too late to try. So we're going to have something to feed our bellies now. And later on today, I'm going to be crossing the Mississippi. So this is going to be my last breakfast in Tennessee. And who knows, it could have been my last breakfast of my whole life, because we don't know how many days we got. So we will make the best of them as we go along. So I'll see you later when I get on the other side of the river. Spent the night in Lake Thunderbird State Park. It's just southeast of Norman. It was adequate, but not great. The showers and bathrooms weren't very clean at all. And it's really not set up for camper vans or RVs. There are no, at the campground that I was at, it was for just tent camping, which I thought would be good for me, but it wasn't very level at all. The campsites weren't even very well defined. It's very hard to find. There's nobody at the entrance to the park to give you a map to tell you how to find the campground. If you do stay there, just search for your particular campground on Google Maps, and you can find it that way. That's the way I found it. So hopefully I'm off to New Mexico today. See you later. Well, I finally made it to Colorado. Just barely though. I'm just barely across the New Mexico-Colorado border in Trinidad, Colorado. And things started out really well this morning. Got up early at 5:30, got out of the campsite nice and early, went to a Walmart store in Purcell, Oklahoma, and got groceries, found everything that I needed. Things were going great. And then I set sail for Trinidad here. And I didn't want to go through Oklahoma City, because Oklahoma City is a road construction and traffic nightmare. Plus it's crisscrossed with toll roads that you can easily get on and end up getting a bill for a toll road that you didn't even know that you're on. So my Google Maps app did a good job of getting me around Oklahoma City, and even as I was traveling around, I was planning on going through Albuquerque, New Mexico, and then taking I-25 north to this area in Colorado. But as I was going along, around Oklahoma City, Google Maps pops up and says, I found a different route that will get you there 45 minutes sooner. Do you want to do that? So I hit sure, fine. And it did a really good job, and I really learned something from driving to Colorado today, and that is that we tend to think that we can get somewhere the quickest if we use only interstate highways. But the thing about interstate highways is back when they were conceived, somebody had the bright idea that the odd interstates would go north and south and the even interstates would go east and west. Then, there's nothing wrong with that. But the thing is, because of that idea, all the interstate highways pretty much end up going east and west or north and south. None of them go southeast to northwest or southwest to northeast. They all seem to be lined up at 90-degree angles. Well, sometimes the shortest distance between where you are and where you're wanting to go is not to go horizontal and then up, but to go diagonally. And honestly, that's what I did today. And what I found was that using the state highways in Texas and New Mexico and the U.S. highways, the speed limit on almost all of them was either 70 miles per hour or 75 miles per hour, which is the same as it is on the interstate highways in those two states. So, but the traffic on those state highways they're almost deserted. So, don't sleep on state highways or U.S. highways and think the only way to go is on the interstate. It might pay you to take a look at, really what those state highways look like. If the highway is just one straight line, it's about 100 miles long, chances are it's a pretty good highway. So anyway, that's how the day started. And it went really well until I got to Trinidad. And so I got to Trinidad, and I had a couple of options in mind about where I might stay tonight. One was at a rest stop that's just north of Trinidad on I-25. And before I drove there, I thought, well, maybe I better check and see if I can find out if overnight parking is allowed at that rest stop, because I knew once I went to the rest stop, I couldn't make a U-turn and come back if overnight parking wasn't allowed. So I got on Google and found out that all rest areas on the interstate highways in Colorado do not allow overnight camping or overnight parking, which kind of broke my heart because rest areas have always been one of my mainstays of a good, cheap, safe place to park overnight. But I guess I won't be doing that while I'm in Colorado. So there was a state park nearby called Trinidad Lake State Park. And so I thought, well, I could probably get a campsite there. And so I got on their website and reserved a campsite for tonight. I thought that's what I had done. So I get the confirmation and everything looks good, I thought. And so I drive up to the park, find the campsite, and there's a tent already set up in my campsite. And so the guy was setting up his tent, and so I showed him on my phone that, the state park had rented us the same campsite for tonight. And he said, well, there was a ranger that went by a while ago in a white pickup truck. Just watch for him when he comes back and see if he can't just put you in another campsite. And so I did. And so the ranger comes by, flag him down, and so I show him on my phone, and I think I've got him. They've screwed up my reservation. And so he looks at it and he says, well, your reservation's not for the 21st, it's for the 28th. And so what I done, they ask you what night you want to make your reservation for. And so, they got this pop-up calendar that you're supposed to click on the date that you want to reserve your campsite. Well, the little square that you need to tap on is smaller than your pinky fingernail. And so I thought I had tapped on the 21st, but I rolled down and tapped on the 28th, which is a week later. So he says, well, I'll give you the phone number to call, and they'll get it straightened out for you. So I called the number, and of course you have to go through about, press this number, press this number, press this number, till you can get to talk to a human being. But finally I did get to talk to a human being. And so I told the lady my problem, and she says, well, I'll see if we can just switch the dates and get it for today's date, and we'll give you a different campsite. And so I said, well, there's one here that the ranger said was available. It's site 108. And so she starts working on that, and then she picks up the phone again and says, well, site 108 is only for handicapped people, which I'm not physically handicapped anyway. It's going to seem to you as this story goes on that I'm mentally handicapped. But she says, so I can't give you that site. I said, well, are there any other ones that you can give me? She said, no, all the rest of them are already filled up. But I can give you one all the way over on the other side of the lake, but it's going to cost you more. And so you'll have to go back on the website and pay the difference. And so it's about, my car thermometer said it was 99 degrees at that campsite at that time. So I thought, I am finished with this state park. I'm going to do something else. So I said, can you just cancel the whole thing, give me my money back, and I'm just going to go get in a motel in town. So she says, yeah, I can do that. And so she does. And bless her heart, she really did. She was as helpful as my mistake would allow her to be. But anyway, so I started searching for motels, and I found actually a RV camp here in Trinidad that I could get an RV site for $40, which was not much more than they were going to charge me for the campsite on the other side of the lake that I turned down. So anyway, so I make the reservation on the RV camp website, get that all lined out. And so guy says, okay, your campsite is going to be campsite number 2. And so but he says, I said, well, is it real plain? I mean, am I going to be able to see the number? He said, yeah, but he said, if you can't find it, just park in any site that nobody's in, because I don't think anybody else is coming tonight. And so I came out here. Sure enough, I found site number 5, 4, and 3. And I looked on the other side of 3, there's nothing. And so I circled through the loop looking for it, never could find it. So finally I just found a level place to park my van. And so in the meantime, it's still in the low 90s, and I am burned up and wondering if I'm even going to be able to get to sleep in the van tonight, because I mean it was steaming hot. They say that it's a dry heat. Well, it was a dry heat, but I was sweating anyway. So, I tried to, turn the fan on, open up the windows, put the bug nets on the windows, because the black flies here are just absolutely ravenous. And just while I was talking on the phone to that lady, they must have bit me 7 or 8 times easily. So anyway, I was trying to turn my fan on, and I blew a fuse in my fan, trying to turn it on. I'd had it blowing out, and I wanted to blow in. And what happened is I tried to reverse the switch, and I blew a fuse, because I didn't wait until the fan completely quit spinning to turn it back on again. So I go digging in my tool drawer, try to find the right fuse. Couldn't find one. Tried another size, it didn't fit. And the fuse I took out of the fan really didn't look like it was blown, so I thought maybe I blew a fuse over in my main fuse box. And so I looked in there, and sure enough, it wasn't the fan on, it wasn't the fuse on my fan that I shot, but it was a fuse in the main fuse box coming from my batteries. So changed that fuse and turned the fan on, and it took off running. And so it's still running right now. I hope you can hear me over the fan. And I guess you're wondering why is he telling me about all these problems he had today? Well, number one, I have always said from my very first video that I made that I would never sugarcoat van life or anything that happened to me on the road. I would never leave out things or try to make it look like it's easier than it is. So I just wanted to take you through all that to really, number one, show that things go wrong on the road, and they go wrong often. And sometimes when they go wrong, it can be very frustrating and even very troubling. But the other reason I wanted to go through that with you is, if you remember from our Bible study yesterday morning, Romans 8:28 said, God works all things together for good to those who love God, to those who are called according to His purpose. And so, even all those things went wrong, and some of the things today went really well. Right now, the van is cooling off. It's feeling pretty comfortable. I'm in a much more level spot than I was last night. And, it was frustrating while I was going through it, but it worked out okay. I'm going to be fine. And looks like I'm probably going to get a good night's sleep tonight, because they're forecasting the temperature eventually to get down to 57 degrees here, which should be fairly comfortable, and it's in the 70s right now. So if I can just put off going to bed for as late as I can stand it, I may actually sleep pretty comfortable today or tonight. So I just wanted to put that very last part in this episode, kind of to put the cherry on top of the cake, so that we could finish these 2 days and not leave anything out, good or bad. So I'll be posting another video in a few days. It'll probably chronicle another 2 or 3 days. I'm sleeping at an altitude of about 6,000 feet here in Trinidad tonight, so we'll see how I do with the altitude sickness. I believe I'll be okay, because I've been in Denver before and didn't have any trouble. So this is only 1,000 feet higher.